If Game of Thrones showed us a world at its most expansive, brutal and explosive, and House of the Dragon tells us of the destructive weight of ambition, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is about the fragile power of integrity. Based on the novella The Hedge Knight from George R.R. Martin, it's about what happens when someone with no army, no title and no real destiny tries to do the right thing anyway. Hello, I'm Jamie East and it's my absolute honour to welcome you back to Westeros at its most human in a brand new adventure, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Launching on Sky Atlantic on January the 19th, this new series of 6 episodes fast forwards from the Targaryen saga of House of the Dragon to around 90 years before the events of Game of Thrones. This era is often described as a calm between storms. We're a few generations away from Robert's rebellion and the Iron Throne is probably quite a comfortable place to sit. For now. Yes, this may be a quieter era, but it's not necessarily a simpler one. At the heart of the series are 2 characters who couldn't be more different, and yet they're going to feel instantly familiar to fans. First, there's Sir Duncan the Tall, known simply as Dunk. Now he's a hedge knight, and that means he wasn't born into nobility, he's not backed by a powerful house, and he's very much not playing the great Game of Thrones. He's strong and earnest, but also unsure of his place in the world. He believes deeply in the idea of knighthood, protecting the weak and keeping his word, even as the world around him often fails to match his vision. Travelling with him is Egg, a sharp-tongued, shaven-headed boy who insists on being Dunk's squire. Egg's really clever, curious, with more than a sliver of mystery around his origins and destiny. We meet Dunk just as his mentor, the hedge knight Sir Arland, dies. He's all Dunk's ever known, and without him, he feels a little bit lost and struggles to make sense of the world and his part in it. Setting off with their 3 horses, Thunder, Sweetfoot and Chestnut, he hears of a tourney taking place in Ashford, not the home of the international train station near Kent, and thinks it's a really good place as any to do some serious soul searching. Pretty soon he meets young Egg, who too is wondering what his standing is in the world. He's unsure of the path his family have planned for him, and the 2 misfits are naturally drawn to each other, mostly through Egg's sheer bloody-mindedness. This is a tale of an unlikely pair discovering just how much they need each other. Legitimising his knighthood in the eyes of Westeros becomes incredibly important to Dunk, but getting involved in the tourney is not as straightforward as he'd hoped, especially to a lowly hedge knight surrounded by the pomp and the glamour of royalty. He's a determined fellow though, and together with Egg they feel their way through with a little bit of help from an unlikely bunch of allies, a load of chutzpah, more than a little bit of blind luck. Their journey asks questions that will feel very familiar to Game of Thrones fans. What does honour cost? Who gets protected? Who gets sacrificed? And can decency survive in a system built on power? Tonally, this series is intentionally different to Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon. It's more focused, more character-driven, and often more hopeful. This isn't a series about saving the world or mysterious prophecies. It doesn't cut across different storylines. In fact, it's almost all based in one village, but that doesn't mean it's short on heroism and hope. We see it through the eyes of the common people and small folk. This is Westeros from a completely different perspective, but don't mistake that for softness. The danger's still very much there, and when it comes, it's just as brutal as anything Jon Snow's about to see. So Jamie, aside from Dunk and Egg, what other characters are we going to see? Thanks very much for asking. While this era lacks the full-scale wars of Game of Thrones, it's still shaped by the power, pride and legacy of the Targaryens. At this point in history, they still reside on the Iron Throne, but they're somewhat crestfallen. Dragons are long gone, but their shadow looms large. The family's haunted by old rebellions, divided loyalties, and a web of rivalries and secrets. In fact, the Targaryens we meet in The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms are showing a distinct case of the collywobbles. Their destiny is far from guaranteed. People are beginning to question their authority. Who even are they without dragons? What gives them the right to rule? They're having to sing for their supper a little bit like never before, which is one of the reasons the upper echelons have descended upon the Ashford tourney, a good old-fashioned PR drive from the royal family. Imagine that. We might not see him just yet, but King Daeron the Good sits on the Iron Throne at the moment, the great-great-grandfather to Aerys II, the Mad King you may remember from Game of Thrones. It's King Daeron's bidding that sends the Targaryens to the tourney. Not all of them are massively overjoyed at the prospect. Someone we very much see a lot of is Prince Baelor Breakspear Targaryen. He's heir to the Iron Throne and serves as Hand of the King. He's one of the few stabilising influences in the royal family. He's hugely respected, and dare I say it, a Targaryen that's actually liked. A liked Targaryen. His son Prince Valar is a much heralded jouster and second in line to the throne. Prince Maekar Targaryen is Baelor's brother and a formidable lord and warrior in his own right. He's got 4 sons, and you might remember one of them from Game of Thrones, the wonderful Master Aemon. Another is the brilliantly named Aerion Targaryen, a volatile and fiery prince who calls himself Brightflame. Most other people call him an arsehole, just not to his face. He's a manipulative son of a gun, but owns possibly the coolest helmet Westeros has ever seen. As well as the Targaryens, you may recognise a load of other sigils floating around, but you'll really love Sir Lionel Baratheon. An ancestor of King Robert that we met in Game of Thrones, he's a legendary knight and heir to House Baratheon. He's known for his skill and battlefield ferocity, as well as the Baratheon love for brawling and boozing.
I'm really quite drunk.
He's honestly one of the best characters George has ever created, and I cannot wait for you to meet him. Keep your eye out too for Tanselle. She's from Dorne, and as we know from the legendary Prince Oberyn Martell, underestimate the Dornish at your peril. You're going to see how ancient grudges are born, and in true George R.R. Martin style, how small decisions tend to ripple through history. The question is less who will win the throne, it's what kind of ruler does this world actually need? For fans of Game of Thrones, this is where A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms really shines. It may be smaller in scale, but its story is no less important. It fills the emotional and moral history of the world we already know and reminds us that before legends are written, before thrones are contested and fought over again and again, there are people simply trying to survive, to matter, and to leave the world a little better than they found it. And in Westeros, you know what? That might be the bravest thing of all. Valar Morghulis.